Right, so today we're going to go into how to do, why not, we'll do all caps, how to do your first challenge run. Smiley face. So, you'll be watching this if you want to do your first challenge run, or if you're not, then put in the comments how you found the video, because I'll be interested. Right. So, challenge run, what do I mean by that? I mean like a no death. Okay, let's start with the all caps. No death, hits, damage, or it could be a speed run, blindfolded, etc. So, first thing I would do is pick the game and your challenge. Now, there are a couple of things. So, you could either do something brand new, something that no one has ever done before, breaking the mold and all that, or you could do an existing one. So, for instance, I'm in the hitless community, so where a lot of people have done like the Soulsborne Kira games, like Dark Souls, Sekiro, Bloodborne. A lot of people have done no hits of those games. So the benefit of that is that there is a lot of resources online, a lot of people who've done guides or previous runs that you can watch and pick up tips. So first choice is whether you want to do something brand new or something existing. If it's something that's like a personal challenge, then new, and then you'll have to do all this yourself, which we'll go into. Existing, it'll be a tad easier. But in terms of if you're just looking into challenge running, just in general kind of thing to try something new, I'd say first thing you got to do is you got to enjoy the game, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not really getting much out of it. So yeah, the game you got to enjoy doing. The challenges, I would differentiate it, like if you want to do like no hits, damage, deathless, all that stuff, and the difference between that and speed running. For me personally, no hit damage stuff, that stuff if you like refining the runs and have a tangible outcome at the end. So something like you have done the run, you have done a no hit or a no damage or a no death run. That's something tangible and fixed. A speed run is something that is forever improvable, looking for that perfect run, forever improving, but also speed run has like the stress of every second matters. No hit, no damage can be a bit more chill. So that's sort of the difference I'd put between. So it depends on what interests you and like your personality thing. I'm much more around here. Speedrunning is not my thing, but this will all work for both. But so we've picked the game and you picked your challenge. What is next? The next is to break the game into into segments and requirements. What do I mean by this? I mean that so you have the full game. Let's say we're going to do an any percent. So an any percent is the quickest way to play the game, to finish the game. So we'd want to finish the game. So in order to do the game, so like say we're doing Bloodborne, there is a set number of bosses that we have to do in order to finish the game. So can I bring up hit counter quickly? Hollow Knight any percent. This is probably a better example. So here we have the differences between like bosses and sections that we have to go through. So False Knight, that's the boss at the end of that first split. So that split contains both the route and the boss itself. So that's what I mean by breaking the game into segments. You want to break it down into the route and an endpoint. Endpoints. And my hit counter's up. Go away. And an endpoint. Normally a boss. So that's a really good way, because then you can practice and then you can get save states and go into all that. But we'll go into all that afterwards. But that's what you want to do first. And that needs to include stuff required for the completion. So that could be bosses that need beating, specific items that you need, otherwise you can't complete the run, and other stuff. Have that all broken down, written down in some form. So it could be on paper, it could be in a thing, it could be in your mind. But that's how I would start with that. Next, normalize. What do I mean by normalize? Normalize is a term that is in like the blindfolded, like hitting, like blindfolded run, challenge run stuff. It basically means a set of actions that produce the same result. So you want these segments, you want as much as possible to be normalized. So if there's a way you can do a particular boss, which means he'll act in a certain way each time, like a way to dodge them or a way to go about it. Like for instance, when we were doing Sekiro no hit, one of the bosses in that, Genny, he does a slam, and when you parry that slam, he either does a thrust or a sweep. So I know that if we press dodge after the slam parry, he'll always do one of those two things. So I always know we can either do a counter in either form, a way to normalize it. We've normalized that boss in that certain move, and we want to do that as much as possible. Now, there is an RNG element to this. It depends on the game that you're playing. For instance, we're currently doing Celeste, which has very little RNG, so we can pretty much normalize almost everything. Like, it's a platformer, so almost everything can be normalized. If we went the same route each time, we would, in theory, do it the same way each time. If I don't make a beat of it. As opposed to something like Sekiro, where there's bosses, there's AIs, there's different things. So we sort of can normalize a lot, but we also have to learn a lot. But yeah, there is that RNG element. But on the face of it, try to normalize as much as you possibly can in the run. As well as in the routing, to work out which enemies. This obviously depends on the games. If it's like, well, I won't even go into that. Like trying to be like generalized for any game really. Enemies that need killing or can be avoided, or on the same breath, items that need picking up, avoiding. So this is basically just routing so that's probably 3. Normalize / routing. So this is stuff you want to work out in regard to each split in the game. Next, another dependency can be on build variety. So something like Sekiro, we only have one build. We can get different skills, but it's basically a guy with a sword, as opposed to something like Dark Souls, where there is a huge amount of variance. So this can be very much, if it is, like if you are the one breaking the mold, doing your own thing, you may have to test different methods, and it may be dependent, you may choose a weapon or a build depending on your personal preference, like spells or melee, or it could be on pure attack power. So dependence on that. So that could be dependent on, if you're doing it yourself, it can be on personal preference. If it's on an existing run, you can probably like pick and choose from other people. But yeah, normalize as much as possible. Yeah. Next, practice. You want to just kind of break, like basically you turn into sort of a game tester. So you want to be doing these segments, working out what changes, what differences there are, like especially with complicated bosses. If it's a game you're playing with them, you want to work out what they're gonna do, what you can react to in each time, and a set movement or attack or response that you're going to do to each one of them. Which sounds quite basic, but it's actually really fun. I find it fun, at least. But the way we can do this is with save states. So this is very much dependent on what you're playing on. PC, I know people can get folders and have built-in save states, but I honestly don't know too much about PC save states. So what I'd recommend doing with that is probably querying a community that's associated with the game you're playing. So an easy way to do that is speedrun.com. Normally they'll have a Discord attached to the particular game, say hello, query, and even if they can't help you, then someone might be able to point you in the direction. But that's how I've previously got some help. And if you just go on YouTube or Twitch or anything like that, I'm sure you'll be able to find someone by searching a game and then querying. Next, noting down inconsistencies. No, that's probably not the right way. Noting down common hits. Or just hits. Noting down hits. As you start practicing, I write down like hits that come up quite often, or like very first run, pretty much every hit, and go, okay, how can I avoid this? And then after that, most common hits, because then we can focus, we can target which things we need to get fixed on. So note down hits. Afterwards, like once you get used to a game, sometimes it might just be unlucky, an incorrect input press, a missed dodge, where it's not a huge thing, but common hits, focus on. Like as soon as you get rid of them, I can make a segment turn from one of the most difficult ones to one of the most chill ones. And as you continue to do that, you will make the segments more efficient, where you can just have them normalized to the extent that you'll be just doing the same thing, although that does take practice. Next thing I try to do, research. Now, if you are doing an existing run, you basically can get rid of all this to an extent. You still need to practice, of course. But research other runs, players, stuff. For tips and stuff that you may not be aware of. So an example of stuff like that was when we did the Sekiro no-hit. Firstly looked at other people doing no-hit stuff, but then looked into, so we doing no-hits, but in the speedrunning community, they had a lot of cheeses, which made certain bosses super simple. There was one in the game called Corrupted Monk. There was a strat, like a stagger strat, to do it. And after going into the speedrunning community, it basically turns into a one-shot boss. So I would say research into other variations. If someone's doing like a low attack power run or a speed run or a different kind of run, I'd recommend having a gander, spend a bit of time on YouTube and seeing what other people are doing, because it might help in your run. Either make it better, improve it, or it might just learn something about the game that you was not aware of. So yeah, this again can be, as well as research, you could also go on various Discord groups, go and find people, query. People know a lot of stuff. And finally, repetition and adapt. Whatever run you're doing, it's even if you do all this, normalize it, and make everything as like step 1, step 2, step 3 process. There'll be cases where there's a finger slip and you just miss roll or miss parry or miss dodge or dash into some spikes. That will just cause a hit or a death or cause you to lose your speed run. So you need to adapt to these things, have fun with it. So main thing of this one is just have fun, which I from previous experience of having Salt is kind of funny, but gotta still have fun with it. Don't be when I say adapt, like have strats, like come up with strats and like we've done, but don't be afraid to change them. If something comes along, like say when you're doing your research and someone's like absolutely thrashing it with a certain way, don't be afraid to like change something, even if you've been doing it for a month. If someone's doing it a better way, change it. Unless it's like comfortability on a strat or something like that. But if something's like directly better, then don't be afraid to change it. Get the most perfect run you can. But yeah, it will be let's change that a little bit. This will most probably, depending on your run, be a grind. So have fun. That's the main thing. Any challenge runs, we sort of like, people do it for different reasons, but I do it for the challenge of it and enjoying. So it will be a grind, so just make sure to have fun with it. But yeah, this is how I normally go about it. I've done a lot more with like existing runs. Sekiro was a bit newer when I first did it, so we did have elements of breaking the game a bit more to try and work out stuff. But yeah, this is how I approach stuff. But yeah, let me know if anyone like approaches it any differently. I'll be interested in how other people learn to do challenge runs and their approach. But yeah, hopefully that helps. But yeah.